Kim Min-ho stood at the window of his office, watching the morning sun rise over the golden wheat fields of New Seoul Colony. The sight always made him smile. 2,300,000 people called this place home now. Families from Earth had traveled here to build something beautiful and peaceful. The communication device on his desk made a soft beeping sound. Kim Min-ho walked over and pressed the button. The face of Park Yuna appeared on the screen. She was the head of colony defense, but her job was usually quiet. New Seoul was far from any trouble in space. "Good morning, Administrator Kim," Park Yuna said. Her voice sounded different today, worried. "Good morning, Yuna. What brings you to call so early?" Kim Min-ho asked. Park Yuna looked at something off-screen, then back at him. "Sir, we have detected unknown ships coming out of hyperspace. They are not responding to our signals." Kim Min-ho felt his stomach drop. Unknown ships were never good news. "How many ships, Yuna?" 37 large vessels. They look like warships, sir. Nothing like any human design I have ever seen." Kim Min-ho moved quickly to his communication panel. He pressed the emergency button that would connect him to Earth. It would take the signal 4 hours to reach home, but Earth needed to know about this right away. "Send out the evacuation alert," Kim Min-ho told Park Yuna. "Get people to the underground shelters. I will try to talk to these visitors." Park Yuna nodded and ended the call. Across the colony, sirens began to sound. Kim Min-ho had practiced this many times, but never thought it would really happen. People started moving toward the safe areas. They had built under the ground. Kim Min-ho opened a channel to the unknown ships. "This is Administrator Kim Min-ho of New Seoul Colony. You have entered human space. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." The screen stayed dark for several minutes. Then a face appeared that made Kim Min-ho step backward. The creature had gray skin and black eyes. Its head was larger than a human head, and its mouth had too many teeth. "Human," the creature said in perfect English, though its voice sounded like metal scraping metal. "I am War Prime Korvash of the Vex Dominion. You will surrender this world immediately." Kim Min-ho tried to keep his voice steady. "This is a peaceful colony. We have no military here. We grow food and raise families. What do you want with us?" War Prime Korvash showed those terrible teeth in what might have been a smile. "We want nothing from you, human. We want you gone. This galaxy belongs to the strong, not to weak creatures like you." "We can talk about this," Kim Min-ho said. "There is room in space for everyone. We do not need to fight." "There will be no fighting," War Prime Korvash replied. "Fighting requires 2 armies. You have no army. You have only death waiting for you." The communication ended. Kim Min-ho immediately called Park Yuna again. "Yuna, how many people are in the shelters?" "About half so far, sir. The children and elderly went first." "We need more time." "We do not have more time. These aliens are not here to talk. They want to kill us all." Kim Min-ho could see explosions starting in the distance through his window. The Vex ships were firing at the colony's small defense platforms. The platforms had been built to stop asteroids, not warships. They disappeared in bright flashes of light. Dr. Choi Dae-ho ran into Kim Min-ho's office. He was covered in dirt and breathing hard. "Sir, I just got the children from the school into Shelter 7. What are our orders?" "Keep everyone underground and hope help comes from Earth," Kim Min-ho said. But he knew help was too far away. Even if Earth sent ships right now, they would take weeks to arrive. The building shook as something exploded nearby. Kim Min-ho looked out the window and saw Vex soldiers walking through the streets. They were tall and moved like machines. Each one carried a weapon that shot beams of red light. When the beams hit humans, the humans simply turned to dust. "We need to get to the shelters," Dr. Choi Dae-ho said. Kim Min-ho shook his head. "I need to stay here. Someone has to record what is happening. Earth needs to know." He started the emergency recorder and spoke into it. "This is Administrator Kim Min-ho. The time is 0847 hours, Colony Standard Time. Unknown aliens calling themselves the Vex Dominion have attacked New Seoul Colony. They are not here for our resources. They are here to kill every human on this world." More explosions shook the building. Through the window, Kim Min-ho could see Vex soldiers setting fire to homes. Families ran screaming from the flames. only to be cut down by the red light beams. The Vex have superior technology. Kim Min-ho continued speaking to the recorder. Our defenses lasted less than 10 minutes. They are killing civilians, including children. This is not war. This is murder. Park. Yuna's voice came through the communication system. Sir, they found Shelter 3. Everyone inside is... Her voice was cut off by the sound of weapons fire. Kim Min-ho kept recording. If anyone from Earth hears this, know that we tried to save as many as we could. The people of New Seoul died bravely. Make them pay for what they have done here. The door to his office exploded inward. 3 Vex soldiers stepped through the smoke. They were even more frightening up close. Their gray skin looked like metal, and their black eyes showed no emotion at all. You are the leader, one of them said. It was not a question. I am Administrator Kim Min-ho, he replied, trying not to show his fear. Good. You will watch your people die. Then you will die last. They grabbed him and dragged him outside. The beautiful colony he had helped build was now a burning wasteland. Bodies lay everywhere. The golden wheat fields were on fire. They forced him to walk through the destruction. At Shelter 7, Kim Min-ho saw Dr. Choi Dae-ho being held by more Vex soldiers. Behind them, 32 children huddled together in terror. Please, Dr. Choi Dae-ho begged. They are just children. Let them live. War Prime Korvash appeared among his soldiers. There will be no humans left alive on this world. That is the only way to be certain you do not spread like a disease to other worlds. Dr. Choi Dae-ho stepped in front of the children. Then kill me first. Let me protect them for as long as I can. War Prime Korvash raised his weapon. As you wish, human. The red beam struck Dr. Choi Dae-ho in the chest. He turned to dust just like all the others. The children screamed and cried. Kim Min-ho closed his eyes, but he could not close his ears. When it was over, War Prime Korvash turned to Kim Min-ho. Your turn, Administrator. Kim Min-ho looked up at the gray sky. Somewhere up there, a message was traveling to Earth. Soon, people would know what happened here. Soon, they would know what the Vex Dominion had done to New Seoul Colony. My people will come for you, Kim Min-ho said quietly. War Prime Korvash laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Let them come. We will erase them too. The red light was the last thing Kim Min-ho ever saw. 6 hours after the attack began, New Seoul Colony was silent. Every building was destroyed. Every human was dead. The Vex ships left without taking anything. They had come only to kill, and their mission was complete. High above the dead world, an automated beacon continued to broadcast the colony's final moments toward Earth. The message would travel through space for 4 long hours before reaching home. When it arrived, everything would change. But War Prime Korvash did not know about human anger. He did not know what happened when humans lost someone they loved. He did not know that humans could build 700,000 warships when they needed to. He would learn. Admiral Lee Hyok was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through his office. He had been in the Solar Defense Force for 30 years, but the alarm still made his heart race. It only sounded when something terrible had happened. He pressed the button on his desk. This is Admiral Lee. What is the emergency? Sir, we have received a priority transmission from New Seoul Colony. You need to see this immediately. Admiral Lee Hyok put down his coffee and walked quickly to the command center. Officer Kim Soo-jin was waiting for him at the main screen. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. Show me, Admiral Lee said. The screen lit up with Administrator Kim Min-ho's final recording. Admiral Lee watched in growing horror as Kim Min-ho described the attack. He saw the burning buildings and heard the weapons fire in the background. When the recording ended with Kim Min-ho's execution, the command center was completely silent. How long ago did this happen? Admiral Lee asked. The signal just arrived, sir. The attack happened 4 hours ago. By now, Officer Kim Soo-jin could not finish the sentence. By now, they are all dead, Admiral Lee said quietly. He had visited New Seoul Colony twice. He remembered the children, playing in the parks and the families working together in the fields. 2,300,000 people gone. Contact President Han immediately, Admiral Lee ordered. She needs to see this recording. Within an hour, President Han Sora was standing in the command center. She watched the recording 3 times without saying a word. When it ended the 3rd time, she turned to Admiral Lee. "How many ships do we have ready for immediate deployment?" she asked. "About 50,000, Madam President. But we do not know how many ships these Vex have. We need time to gather intelligence and plan our response." President Han shook her head. "There is no time for planning. These creatures killed innocent families. They murdered children. We respond with everything we have." "Ma'am, 50,000 ships might not be enough. We should be careful." President Han looked at the screen again, where Kim Min-ho's face was frozen in his final moment. "Admiral Lee, call an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Every nation, every colony, every human in space needs to see this recording. Then we take a vote." 2 hours later, representatives from every human nation and colony were gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. President Han stood at the center podium. The massive screen behind her showed the new Sol colony before the attack. Happy families, beautiful farms, children laughing. "Fellow humans," President Han began. "4 hours ago, aliens calling themselves the Vex Dominion attacked our colony at New Sol. They did not want our resources. They did not want our territory. They wanted us dead simply because we exist." She pressed a button, and the screen changed to show the attack. The assembly watched in stunned silence as Kim Min-ho recorded the destruction of his world. When War Prime, Corvash appeared on screen, angry voices filled the hall. "These creatures believe humans are weak," President Han continued. "They believe we will hide and hope they leave us alone. They are wrong. Today we show the galaxy what humans do when someone hurts our family." The vote was called. One by one, every nation voted for total war authorization. Earth, Mars, Europa, Titan, New Tokyo, New Berlin, New Lagos, every human world said yes. The final count was 195 votes for war, 0 votes. Against it, President Han looked out at the assembly. "Then it is decided. We go to war." Fleet Admiral Yoon Jae-hwan was called back from the Outer Rim where he had been patrolling for pirates. He was known throughout human space as the Iron Wolf, because he never gave up and never showed mercy to enemies. When his ship docked at Earth Station 1, President Han was waiting for him. "Jae-hwan," she said, using his first name like they were old friends. They had known each other since the academy. "I have a job for you." Admiral Yoon looked at the recording of New Sol's destruction. His face did not change expression, but his hands slowly formed fists. "What are my orders, Madam President?" "Find these Vex. Kill them all. Make sure they never threaten a human world again." Admiral Yoon nodded. "I will need ships. Many ships." "How many?" Admiral Yoon thought for a moment. "If we are doing this, we do it right. We build a fleet so large that every alien species in the galaxy will think twice before looking at a human colony the wrong way. 700,000 ships." President Han's eyes widened. "That is more ships than have ever been built in human history." "Then we better start building," Admiral Yoon replied. General Nam Hyojin took charge of the greatest military buildup ever attempted. Every shipyard in human space began working around the clock. The massive Sol shipyards near Jupiter expanded their production lines. Factory worlds that had been making civilian goods switched to military production. On Mars, engineer Lee Min-seo designed new weapons specifically for fighting the Vex. She had studied the recordings of their armor and ships. "Their technology is advanced," she told General Nam, "but they rely too much on energy shields. We build kinetic weapons that punch through shields with pure force." The entire human economy changed overnight. Every resource was directed toward building the fleet. Miners worked triple shifts to gather materials. Scientists developed new engines and weapons. Shipbuilders worked so hard that some collapsed from exhaustion and had to be carried to medical stations. But nobody complained. In every human home, families watched the recording from New Sol. They saw Kim Min-ho trying to protect his people. They saw Dr. Choi Dae-ho dying to protect children. They saw War Prime Corvash laughing as he killed innocent families. Captain Shin Woo-jin commanded a destroyer that was being upgraded with the new weapons. His crew painted "Remember New Sol" on the side of their ship. Soon, ships across the fleet carried the same message. "Sir," his weapons officer asked, Do you really think we need 700,000 ships for one alien fleet? Captain Shin looked at the painting of New Soul's children that someone had put up in the corridor. Officer Park, this is not about winning. This is about making sure no alien ever thinks about hurting humans again. When we are done, they will tell stories about what happens when you attack human families. Commander Bai Jiwan was in charge of training new crews for the expanding fleet. Millions of humans volunteered to serve. Many had never been in space before, but they learned quickly. The memory of New Soul made them determined to be ready. These aliens think we are weak because we prefer peace, Commander Bai told her. Trainees. They are about to learn that choosing peace does not mean we cannot choose war. As the months passed, the fleet grew larger and larger. First, 100,000 ships, then 200,000, then 400,000. Admiral Yoon walked through the shipyards, watching the massive vessels take shape. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and the new dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Officer Oh Seung-min was assigned to count the ships as they were completed. Sir, he reported to Admiral Yoon, we have reached 600,000 vessels. The final 100,000 will be ready in 3 weeks. Admiral Yoon stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the UES Retribution. Through the windows, he could see ships stretching as far as the eye could see. Humanity had built the largest fleet in the history of space travel. Sir, Captain Park Jin-yuk said, approaching with a communication pad, we have received intelligence about the Vex Dominion. They have approximately 200,000 ships spread across 400 worlds. Admiral Yoon smiled for the first time since seeing the New Soul recording. Then we outnumber them more than 3 to 1. Good odds. Sir, there is more. Our spies report that the Vex High Council assigned only 15,000 ships to defend, against our expected response. They believe we are too weak to be a real threat. Admiral Yoon's smile grew wider. Even better, they will learn what human anger looks like. The final ships were completed exactly 8 months after the attack on New Soul. 700,000 human warships filled the space around Earth. It was a sight that had never been seen before and would never be forgotten. President Han stood beside Admiral Yoon on the bridge of the Retribution. Behind them, the greatest fleet ever assembled waited for orders. The people of New Soul cannot be brought back, President Han said. But we can make sure their deaths mean something. We can make sure this never happens again. Admiral Yoon turned to his communication officer. Send the message to all ships. We jump to hyperspace in 1 hour. Destination, Vex Space. Across the fleet, 700,000 captains received the same order. Find the Vex. Show them what humans do to creatures who kill our families. Show them why they should have left us alone. The largest military force in galactic history was about to teach the Vex Dominion a lesson they would never forget. But first, they had to survive it. War Prime Corvash stood before the great crystal screen in the Vex High Council chamber. The massive room was carved from black stone, with symbols of conquest covering every wall. 17 different species had fallen to Vex might, and their defeat was recorded here for all to see. Report, commanded Supreme Overlord Macron from his throne of metal and bone. The Supreme Overlord was the largest Vex that Corvash had ever seen, with scars covering his gray skin. Each scar represented a world he had personally conquered. The human colony has been cleansed, Supreme Overlord, War Prime Corvash said. Every soft-flesh creature on the planet is dead. The world is now empty and ready for Vex use. The 5 members of the High Council nodded in approval. War strategist Kelthon leaned forward from his position at the council table. How many Vex warriors did we lose in this operation? None, war strategist. The humans had no real defenses. Their weapons could barely scratch our ship armor. The entire operation took 6 hours. Supreme Overlord Macron showed his teeth in what passed for a Vex smile. Excellent. The humans proved to be as weak as our intelligence suggested. Add their symbol to the wall with the other defeated species. A servant Vex began carving the human symbol next to the marks of the 17 other conquered races. War Prime. Corvash felt proud as he watched. The Vex way was the right way. The strong ruled, and the weak died. But war strategist Kelthon did not look satisfied. He was the oldest member of the Council and had been present for most of the Vex conquests. War Prime, tell me about these humans. How did they fight? They did not fight, War Strategist. They hid in underground shelters like frightened animals. Their leader begged for mercy. Even their military coordinator ran away when we arrived. War Strategist. Kelthon studied a datapad with information about human space. According to our scouts, humans control 47 worlds. That is more territory than most species hold when we conquer them. Yet you say they offered no resistance? War Prime Korvash shrugged. Perhaps they are a species that spreads quickly, but fights poorly. Like the Zelak fungus creatures we eliminated 50 cycles ago. The Zelak had no concept of warfare, War Strategist Kelthon replied. But humans do. Our intelligence shows they have fought wars among themselves for thousands of years. They have developed advanced military technology. Supreme Overlord Macron waved a clawed hand dismissively. War Strategist Kelthon, your caution serves us well in planning, but do not see threats where none exist. The humans are defeated. If their other worlds wish to surrender, we will accept. If they wish to fight, we will destroy them as easily as we destroyed the first colony. War Strategist Kelthon bowed his head. Of course, Supreme Overlord, but I request permission to study human military capabilities more closely. If they do choose to fight, we should be prepared. Granted, but do not waste too many resources on this. The humans will likely surrender once they hear what happened to their colony world. War Prime Korvash left the council chamber feeling satisfied. The cleansing of the human colony had been perfect. No Vex casualties, complete destruction of the enemy, and another world added to the Dominion. He had performed exactly as a War Prime should. In his private quarters, Korvash reviewed the recordings his soldiers had made during the attack. He enjoyed watching the humans run in terror. Their fear proved that the Vex were the superior species, destined to rule the galaxy. The door to his quarters opened, and War Captain Delvec entered. Delvec commanded one of the ships in Korvash's fleet and had participated in the human colony attack. War Prime, Delvec said, I have been monitoring communications from human space. There has been increased military activity near their home world. Korvash barely looked up from his recordings. Of course there has. They are probably moving their few ships around to make themselves feel safer. Let them waste their energy. Sir, the activity seems larger than expected. Our long-range sensors detect many ship movements. Now Korvash paid attention. How many ship movements? It is difficult to get accurate counts from this distance, but perhaps thousands of ships. Korvash laughed. Thousands. War Captain, there are not thousands of human ships in existence. Their entire fleet is perhaps 50,000 vessels, scattered across 47 worlds. You are seeing cargo ships, civilian transports, mining vessels. War Captain Delvec looked uncertain. Perhaps, War Prime, but some of the energy signatures match military vessel patterns. Even if every human ship gathered in one place, they would still be outnumbered by our fleet. The Vex Dominion controls 200,000 warships. We have conquered 17 species. We know how to fight. Meanwhile, in his research center, war strategist Kelthon was discovering disturbing information about human military history. He studied records of human conflicts, obtained by Vex spies over many years. The humans had fought a war called World War II that lasted 6 years and involved over 100 million soldiers. They had developed weapons that could destroy entire cities with single bombs. They had built tanks, aircraft, and ships in numbers that seemed impossible. More concerning was their recent history. When a human colony ship had been attacked by space pirates 50 years ago, the human response was swift and overwhelming. They had sent 300 ships to hunt down 12 pirate vessels. Not one pirate survived. War strategist Kelthon made notes on his datapad. Humans seemed to have two modes, peaceful expansion and total warfare. The peaceful humans had built colonies and traded with other species, but when threatened, they became something else entirely. He brought his concerns to Supreme Overlord Macron during the next council session. Supreme Overlord, I have completed my study of human military capabilities. I believe we may have made an error. Supreme Overlord Macron's eyes narrowed. Explain. Humans have a history of extreme military response when their civilians are threatened. They do not fight only to win battles. They fight to completely destroy enemies who hurt their families. War Prime Corvash stood up angrily. War strategist, you speak like a coward. Are you afraid of soft-flesh creatures who hid in holes while we killed them? I am afraid of underestimating an enemy, war strategist Kelthon replied calmly. Our scouts now report massive fleet movements in human space. Ships are gathering near Earth in numbers we have never seen before. Supreme Overlord Macron considered this. How many ships? Our best estimate is over 500,000 vessels, Supreme Overlord. And the number is growing. The Council, Chamber fell silent. War Prime Corvash felt a cold feeling in his stomach. That is impossible. No species has ever built a fleet that large. Nevertheless, the evidence suggests it is true, war strategist Kelthon said. We may have attacked a human colony that was important to them. Their response appears to be significant. Supreme Overlord Macron stood from his throne. His massive form cast shadows across the chamber. War strategist, I want continuous monitoring of human fleet movements. War Prime Corvash, how many ships do you have available for immediate deployment? 15,000, Supreme Overlord. More than enough to handle any human attack. Double that number. Take 30,000 ships and position them at the border of human space. If the humans are foolish enough to attack, destroy them. War Prime Corvash bowed. It will be done, Supreme Overlord. But as he left the chamber, Corvash felt something he had never experienced before in his 50 cycles of military service. Uncertainty. The humans had seemed so weak during the colony attack. How could they possibly have built such a large fleet? War strategist Kelthon remained behind to speak privately with Supreme Overlord Macron. Supreme Overlord, I believe 30,000 ships may not be sufficient. If the humans truly have over 500,000 vessels, then we will send more ships, Macron replied. The Vex Dominion has conquered 17 species, Kelthon. We will conquer the 18th. How strong can humans really be? War strategist Kelthon looked at his datapad one more time. The information about human warfare was extensive and brutal. These creatures had fought each other for millennia and had become very good at killing. Supreme Overlord, he said quietly. I fear we are about to find out. In the depths of space, massive human fleets were moving through hyperspace toward Vex territory. 700,000 ships, each one carrying weapons designed specifically to fight Vex armor and shields. Each ship carried humans who had seen the recordings from New Sol Colony. Each human had sworn to make the Vex pay for what they had done. The Vex Dominion was about to learn why 17 previous conquered species had never faced an enemy like humanity. They were about to discover what happened when someone killed human children and laughed about it. War Prime Corvash would get his wish to fight humans again, but this time the humans would not be hiding in shelters. This time, they would be coming for him. Admiral Yoon Jae-won stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as 700,000 human warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Vex territory. Through the view screen, he could see the massive fleet stretching in every direction. Ships of every size and class floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with new armor and weapons. Admiral, reported Navigation Officer Kim Daeun, all fleets have arrived safely. We are exactly 12 light hours from the nearest Vex outpost. Admiral Yoon nodded. The journey from Earth had taken 3 weeks, but every ship had made it without problems. Now came the difficult part. Communications, have you detected any Vex signals? Yes, sir, replied Communications Officer Lee Jae-hoon. We are picking up routine patrol broadcasts from 17 different Vex outposts in this sector. They appear to be unaware of our presence. Good. Maintain communication silence. Weapons, what is the status of our new kinetic cannons? Weapons. Officer Park Sora checked her displays. All weapons systems are operating at full capacity, Admiral. The new armor-piercing rounds are loaded and ready. Engineer Lee Min-seo's designs tested perfectly during our practice runs. Admiral Yoon looked at the tactical display showing Vex positions throughout the sector. Red dots marked enemy outposts, patrol routes, and military installations. There were hundreds of targets spread across dozens of star systems. Captain Shin Woo-jin, Admiral Yoon said into his communication device, Your reconnaissance force will begin Phase 1. Find every Vex military position in this sector, map their defenses, identify their command structures. Understood, Admiral, came Captain Shin's voice from his destroyer. My ships are moving into position now. Admiral, Yoon turned to his tactical officer. Commander Bae Ji-won, deploy the Siegebreaker squadrons. I want them ready to assault Vex fortifications the moment we begin our attack. Yes, sir. The Siegebreakers are standing by. The reconnaissance force moved ahead of the main fleet. 20,000 ships spread out across the sector, their advanced sensors scanning every Vex installation. Captain Shin commanded from his destroyer, the UES New Soul's Vengeance. Sir, reported his sensor operator, I am detecting a large Vex fleet approximately 4 light hours from our position. 30,000 ships in defensive formation. Captain Shin studied the display. The Vex had positioned their fleet to block the most direct route to their core worlds. It was a smart defensive move, but they had no idea how large the human fleet really was. Send the information to Admiral Yoon, Captain Shin ordered, and continue scanning. I want to know the position of every Vex ship in this sector. Back on the Retribution, Admiral Yoon received the reconnaissance reports. The Vex had 30,000 ships defending this sector. It was a large force by galactic standards, but tiny compared to what humanity had brought. Admiral, said Captain Park Jin-hyuk, his chief of staff, the Vex defensive positions suggest they are expecting a traditional attack. They have concentrated their forces to defend the most important systems. Admiral Yoon smiled grimly. Then we will not give them a traditional attack. We will divide our fleet into 7 task forces. Each force will be larger than their entire defensive fleet. We will hit them from 7 different directions at once. The human fleet began to separate into smaller groups, even divided 7 ways. Each task force contained 100,000 ships. It was a level of military power that had never been seen before in galactic warfare. Task Force Alpha will attack the Vex border stations, Admiral Yoon announced over the fleet communications. Task Force Beta will strike their supply depots. Task Force Gamma will hit their patrol bases. We will not give them time to coordinate a defense. War Prime Corvash received the first reports of human ships in Vex space while he was reviewing defensive plans on his command ship. The news made him pause in his reading. How many human ships? He asked his intelligence officer. The scouts report seeing at least 50,000 vessels, War Prime, but the numbers keep changing as more ships are detected. War Prime Corvash felt confused. 50,000 ships was far more than the Vex had expected, but still manageable. His 30,000 ships could fight them. Sir, the intelligence officer continued, there is something strange about the human fleet movements. They appear to be dividing into multiple groups. Multiple groups? Yes, sir. Instead of concentrating for one large attack, they are spreading out across the entire sector. War Prime Corvash did not understand this strategy. Every military doctrine taught that concentration of force was the key to victory. Why would the humans divide their fleet? His question was answered 30 minutes later when the attacks began. Captain Shin Woo-jin led the first assault on Vex Border Station Epsilon 7. The station was a massive fortress built into an asteroid, bristling with weapons and shields. It had been designed to stop any invasion force trying to enter Vex space. All ships, begin the attack, Captain Shin ordered. 15,000 human ships opened fire simultaneously. The new kinetic weapons designed by engineer Lee Min-seo punched through the station's energy shields like they were made of paper. Solid metal projectiles moving at tremendous speed slammed into the station's armor. The Vex defenders tried to return fire, but they were overwhelmed. The station's weapons were designed to fight small raiding forces, not massive fleets. Within 2 hours, Border Station Epsilon 7 was a cloud of debris. Sir, reported Captain Shin's weapons officer, the station is completely destroyed. No survivors detected. Captain Shin felt no satisfaction. He remembered the recordings from New Sol Colony, where Vex soldiers had murdered children. Move to the next target. We have 16 more border stations to destroy. Across the sector, similar attacks were happening at the same time. Commander Bae Ji-won led her Siegebreaker squadrons against Vex Fortress World Corvax 3. The planet was protected by orbital defense platforms and a fleet of 5,000 Vex ships. All Siegebreakers, target the orbital platforms first, Commander Bae ordered. Clear the way for the assault ships. The Siegebreaker ships were the largest vessels in the human fleet. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to crack moons. When they fired their main guns, the Vex orbital platforms simply vanished in balls of superheated gas. The Vex fleet defending the planet tried to attack the human ships, but they were outnumbered 20-1. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. When it was over, Korvax 3 was defenseless. "Sir," reported Commander Bay's tactical officer, "the planet's military installations have been neutralized. No significant resistance remains." "Good. Leave a garrison fleet and move to the next system. We have 12 more fortress worlds to capture." War Prime Korvash finally understood what was happening when reports came in from across the sector. The humans were not attacking with 50,000 ships. They were attacking with hundreds of thousands of ships, divided into multiple fleets that were hitting dozens of targets simultaneously. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his staff. "Where did the humans get so many ships?" War strategist Kelthon's voice came through the communications system from the Vex homeworld. "War Prime, our latest intelligence suggests the human fleet may be larger than we initially estimated." "How much larger?" "Possibly 700,000 ships." War Prime Korvash felt his blood turn cold. 700,000 ships was more than 3 times the size of the entire Vex military. It was impossible. No species had ever built such a fleet. War strategist, that cannot be correct. No economy could support building so many ships. Nevertheless, War Prime, the evidence suggests they have done exactly that. The attack patterns we are seeing require enormous numbers of vessels. War Prime Korvash looked at his tactical display. Red dots marking destroyed Vex installations were appearing faster than he could count them. In 6 hours, the humans had destroyed more Vex military installations than had been lost in the previous 50 years of warfare. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 different outposts. They are being overwhelmed by human fleets." "No surrenders," War Prime Korvash ordered. "The Vex do not surrender. Fight to the death." But even as he gave the order, Korvash knew it was hopeless. His 30,000 ships could not be everywhere at once, and the humans seemed to have unlimited numbers of vessels. Officer Oh Seung-min recorded the human advance from his position on a cruiser. Personal log, Day 1 of the Vex campaign. The human fleet has penetrated deep into enemy territory. We have destroyed 47 military installations, 12 supply depots, and 19 patrol bases. Vex resistance has been lighter than expected. He paused in his recording as another Vex outpost exploded in the distance. The Vex seem unprepared for the scale of our attack. They positioned their forces to fight a normal invasion. They were not expecting 700,000 ships. Admiral Yoon received reports from all 7 task forces as the attacks continued. Every human fleet was advancing steadily into Vex space, destroying everything military they encountered. "Admiral," reported Captain Park Jin-hyuk, "Task Forces Alpha through Gamma have completed their initial objectives. Vex border defenses in those sectors have been completely eliminated." "Excellent. Order all task forces to advance to Phase 2 targets. I want every Vex military installation in this region destroyed within 48 hours. Supreme Overlord Macron stood in the High Council chamber on the Vex homeworld of Korvax Prime, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete collapse of his empire's border defenses. Red indicators marked destroyed installations across 12 sectors. In just 4 days, the humans had wiped out military positions that had taken decades to build. "War strategist Kelthon," Macron said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Give me your assessment of the human fleet." War strategist Kelthon looked exhausted. He had not slept since the attacks began. "Supreme Overlord, our intelligence now confirms that the humans have deployed approximately 700,000 warships. This is the largest military force ever assembled in recorded galactic history." The other council members shifted nervously in their seats. War Minister Delvon spoke first. 700,000 ships. How did they build so many without our knowledge? "It appears they converted their entire economy to military production after the New Sol attack," Kelthon replied. "Every human, world, every shipyard, every factory was dedicated to building this fleet. They accomplished in 8 months what should have taken decades." Supreme Overlord Macron slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. "This is impossible. No species has ever shown such unity. They should be fighting among themselves, not working together." War strategist Kelthon pulled up recordings from captured human communications. Supreme Overlord, the attack on New Sol appears to have unified all human factions. They refer to the colony victims as family, even though they had never met them. The humans seem to consider all members of their species to be related. Implications of this hit the Council like a physical blow. The Vex had conquered 17 species by dividing them, making them fight each other while Vex forces grew stronger. But the humans had done the opposite. An attack on one human world had made all humans into soldiers. "What are your recommendations, War Strategist?" Macron asked. "We have two options, Supreme Overlord. We can attempt to defend our core worlds with our remaining forces, or we can try to negotiate with the humans." War Prime Corvash entered the chamber at that moment. His armor was damaged and his gray skin was pale. He had barely escaped the destruction of his fleet at the border. "Supreme Overlord," Corvash said, "I must report that my entire fleet has been destroyed. 30,000 ships, gone. The humans hit us from 7 different directions simultaneously. We never had a chance to coordinate our defense." Macron turned his attention to the War Prime. "How did they fight? What were their tactics?" "They did not fight like any species we have encountered before," Corvash replied. "They showed no interest in capturing territory or resources. They simply destroyed everything military they found and moved on. They are not here to conquer us, Supreme. Overlord, they are here to eliminate us." The chamber fell silent as the full reality of the situation became clear. The humans were not following normal rules of warfare. They were conducting what their military called total war, the complete destruction of the enemy's ability to fight. War strategist Kelthon brought up star charts showing human fleet movements. "The human forces are now advancing on 3 separate fronts toward our core worlds. At their current rate of advance, they will reach Corvax Prime in 6 days. How many ships do we have left for the defense of the homeworld?" Macron asked. "Approximately 80,000 vessels, Supreme Overlord. But they are spread across our remaining territories. If we concentrate them here, we abandon our other worlds to human attack." Supreme Overlord Macron studied the display, showing human fleet positions. Each red dot represented more ships than most species had in their entire military. The humans had brought overwhelming force to this war. "Open a communication channel to the human fleet," Macron ordered. "Perhaps we can reach some accommodation." Admiral Yoon Jae-won received the Vex communication request while his flagship was leading the assault on Vex Sector Command Base Omega-12. The base was one of the largest military installations in Vex space, defended by 15,000 ships and orbital fortresses. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Lee Ji-hoon, "we are receiving a priority message from the Vex homeworld. Supreme Overlord Macron wishes to speak with you directly." Admiral Yoon did not take his eyes off the tactical display showing the ongoing battle. Human siegebreaker squadrons were systematically destroying the base's defensive platforms. "Put him through." The view screen activated to show Supreme Overlord Macron in his council chamber. The Vex leader tried to project strength, but Admiral Yoon could see the fear in his black eyes. "Human Admiral," Macron began, "I am Supreme Overlord Macron of the Vex Dominion. I wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Admiral Yoon finally looked at the screen. His face showed no emotion. "There are no terms to discuss. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy every Vex military installation in the galaxy." "Admiral, surely we can reach some understanding. The Vex Dominion has existed for 500 years. We have brought order to this region of space." "You brought murder to New Sol Colony," Admiral Yoon replied coldly. "You killed families. You laughed while you executed children. The time for diplomacy ended when War Prime Corvash gave the order to exterminate innocent humans." Supreme Overlord Macron leaned forward. "That was one military operation. We can discuss reparations, territorial adjustments, trade agreements." "Admiral," Yoon cut him off. "There will be no negotiations. You showed no mercy to the people of New Sol. We will show no mercy to your military forces." The communication ended. Supreme Overlord Macron stared at the blank screen, realizing that the humans could not be reasoned with. They had not come for territory or resources. They had come for justice. Fleet Captain Park Jin-yuk led the final assault on Corvax Prime 3 days later. The human fleet had swept aside all Vex resistance between the border and the homeworld. Now 700,000 human ships surrounded the Vex capital planet. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Kim Minseo, "Vex orbital defenses are concentrating around their capital city. They have positioned their remaining fleet in defensive formation above the main population centers." Captain Park studied the tactical display. The Vex had pulled back their last 80,000 ships to defend their homeworld. It was a respectable force, but hopelessly outnumbered. "All fleet commanders," Captain Park announced over the communication. "System, begin the final assault. Target military installations only. Avoid civilian casualties where possible." The battle for Korvax Prime began at dawn, local time. Human weapons, designed specifically to penetrate Vex armor and shields, tore through the defending fleet like a storm through paper. The Vex fought bravely, but they were facing impossible odds. Commodore Lee Minseo coordinated the precision strikes that disabled the planet's shield generators. "Target the power stations feeding the defensive grid," she ordered her weapons. "Teams, cut the power, and their shields fail." Within 4 hours, the orbital battle was over. The Vex fleet was destroyed, their space stations captured or destroyed, their planetary defenses silenced. Korvax Prime lay defenseless before the human fleet. Supreme Overlord Macron stood in his palace, watching human ships fill the sky above, his capital city. His advisors had fled, his military was destroyed, his empire was finished. A communication signal came through the palace systems. Admiral Yoon appeared on the main screen, standing on the bridge of his flagship with the burning remains of the Vex fleet visible through the windows behind him. "Supreme Overlord Macron," Admiral Yoon said, "you will surrender unconditionally. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your government will be dissolved. Vex worlds will be placed under human administration until we are satisfied that you no longer pose a threat to any species." Macron felt centuries of Vex pride crumbling inside him. "And if we refuse?" Admiral Yoon gestured to the tactical display behind him, showing 700,000 human ships surrounding the planet. "Then we will demonstrate what humans do to species that murder our children." Supreme Overlord Macron looked around his empty throne room. His mighty empire, built over 5 centuries of conquest, had fallen in less than 2 weeks to an enemy he had underestimated. "I surrender," he said quietly. Commander Im Sujin established the Human Occupation Authority in the former Vex Capitol building. Her first act was to release all species that had been enslaved by the Vex Dominion. 17 different alien races were freed from Vex control and offered assistance in rebuilding their worlds. "The Vex Empire is officially dissolved, Commander," Im announced to representatives of the liberated species. "Your worlds are free to govern themselves. Humanity will provide protection and aid as you rebuild." The galaxy watched in amazement as the humans kept their word. They had come seeking justice for New Sol Colony, and they had achieved it. But instead of becoming conquerors themselves, they were liberating the oppressed and helping former enemies. Admiral Lee Hyok arrived from Earth to oversee the transition. He met with Admiral Yoon on Korvax Prime as the last Vex military units surrendered their weapons. "The fleet performed perfectly," Admiral Lee reported. 700,000 ships deployed across 400 star systems, and we accomplished our mission with minimal casualties on our side. Admiral Yoon nodded, but his expression remained serious.